just about like us owning who we are as people, and food and diet and body and all this stuff not being so prescriptive, that it's like it's so individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whitney, thank you so much for coming on RealPod. I'm so excited.
Pleasure.
I have to start with like total confession.
Okay.
So I have never actually seen The Hills because when it came out, I think I did the math. I was like 9.
Oh my God.
So I
You're a baby.
Yeah, but I do remember seeing you and your friends and everyone like in the magazines as I hit like 13 and 14.
Yeah.
But is it weird for you when you talk to someone and you have no idea if they either know everything about you or they don't know?
So I don't even think about it. Like, I assume when I'm meeting someone that I'm meeting someone for the first time and that we're complete strangers. Like, I don't even think about that anymore. Maybe it's because it's been so many years since the show that I don't think about that, and it's not like who I am. It's not my identity. But probably when I was younger and I was on the show, I imagine that I had a little bit of an ego, and I'd probably wonder if people knew who I was.
Yeah.
But like, that's totally, it's not something, honestly, that like pops into my head now.
That's cool. That's very humble of you.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it's more people than you suspect.
I don't know.
How did that come about?
So I was never trying to be on TV. Like, I really did always want to be in fashion. I grew up in fashion. My dad was in the fashion business. And I was actually just interning at Women's Wear Daily one summer in Los Angeles. And I heard that Teen Vogue was interviewing interns for the fall year. And I went to USC, which my sister told me you went as well.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so fellow Trojan.
Love it.
So I was going to USC, and I wanted to have an internship while I was there. So Teen Vogue was looking for them. I was like, I'll apply. Sent in my resume. Next thing I know, I get a call from MTV, and they're like, we see you applied for an internship at Teen Vogue. We're actually shooting a reality TV show with them. We're following some girls in Los Angeles. One of them will be working alongside of you. Like, is this something you'd be interested in? Would you be interested in doing a casting tape?
Wow.
And then the next thing I know, long story short, like, I did the casting tape, and they called me in for my first day of filming, which was my interview for the actual internship. And I walk into the office, and I'm sitting in the waiting room, and in comes Lauren. We're being filmed. Cameras are all set up. And I knew at the time who she was because I had watched Laguna Beach. So the first day of filming was the first day I found out that I was doing her spin-off show, which then like a lot of things clicked, and I was like, okay, I understand what kind of show I'm on now. And like, I feel like I was kind of relieved because I had no idea what I signed up for. I was like very naive and just went for it. But yeah, that's how it all started.
What do you think it was about your resume specifically? Like, you weren't even working there for them to be like, this is the applicant out of thousands of applicants. What did you have on the resume?
I have no idea. Like, I don't know. That's a really good question. I wish I could get access to that resume that I sent in. I think that they probably got a lot of resumes, and they probably called a lot of people and did casting tapes with a bunch of them. And then they chose me when they saw my casting tape. I don't know. They thought I was like an LA girl into fashion, like very expressive. I don't know. For me, it's weird because I never thought of myself as being someone that would be a good reality TV character. Like, I'm not a drama queen. I'm not going to do stuff like that for the sake of fame. So it was always like, why? But then I think Adam DeBell, the producer of the show, did always want to cast people that had a sense of normalcy so that there were people that the viewer could like identify with. So yeah, that's my story.
And how much did your life change as filming went on and the first season come out? Like, because I remember, like I said, the magazines, it was like you, Lauren, Audrina, like everywhere.
Yeah.
What they wear when they were shopping, stars, they're just like us.
Yeah, it wasn't until I think like I got out of college, like our third season of The Hills, that I started to really notice a difference in my life. Like, that I started making a bunch of money and like having this attention and not really knowing exactly what to do with it. Like, for me, I felt just like it was all happening to me too young. And luckily I came from a good family who was able to like keep my head above water and like be real with me. But for the most part, I was just like a normal college student, and I had a boyfriend that didn't want to be on the show, and I was really living like my own normal college life. I was just going into film in like the closet with Lauren. It wasn't until I filmed The City that my actual personal life was shown. Yeah.
And how did it affect your self-esteem? You mentioned earlier identity. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah.
That's so intriguing.
Yeah. So it affected it big time. I mean, I always had a really healthy body image. Like I remember some thoughts when I was in high school feeling like a little bit bigger than the girls. Like I was tall and I had big boobs, and I remember feeling bigger, but never to the point where I was doing anything about it. And then once I got on TV when I was in college, I saw myself on TV, and it was like that real, like, whoa, does the camera really add 10 pounds, or do I really need to lose some weight? Like need in quotes, you know, like based on what, based on who? Like these are all such, you know, they're conditioned in us. So I see myself on the screen and I'm like, oh my God, I need to lose weight. And that was my first time where that affected my relationship with my body for sure.
Wow, I feel such a parallel because I struggled in high school with just disordered eating and counting calories, and but I didn't think anything of it because I'm like, that's what everyone is doing.
Totally.
But then in college, not the same as the cameras being on you 24/7, but on the volleyball court, you know, I'm in these spandex and this tight uniform, and there's people taking photos like right below the net, and then those are getting posted. It's like you can't hide a thing.
No, yeah.
And then you compare to other people, and yeah, you also, that's an age where in college, our bodies are still changing. There's this belief that like it's puberty at 14, you get your boobs and then you're done. It's like, what about the adult puberty we go through between like 18 to 25?
Oh my God, it's beyond. Like when I was 18 and went to college, I gained 40 pounds like my first year of college. And that wasn't even from drinking, because I was like such a prude. I was just eating my feelings because I was so unhappy at college. But yeah, I am just so grateful that there wasn't social media when The Hills was on, because for you grew up in a different time where when did you start using social media?
High school.
Yeah. So like we were getting paparazzi'd and those pictures were out and about, but we weren't sharing any photos. There weren't photos around of us. There weren't videos around of us. There wasn't a space for people to comment about us. Like there wasn't any of that. So that really helped us, I think. Like, I don't know what I would be like today
if there was like Twitter and DMs.
Yeah, if people were like picking us apart that much, honestly, like that would be exhausting.
Wait, when you said you were so unhappy at college, what was that about?
Well, so I went to University of Colorado in Boulder for a year and a half, and then I transferred to USC, and I was just lonely. Like it was just me thinking that I wanted this like big rah-rah football school away from LA, and I got there and was like, oh my God, like I'm one of a million, and I don't ski, and I didn't do a sorority, which I totally should have. It's just like I didn't get involved, and instead of sticking with it, I decided to apply to USC, and they were like, if you want to get in, you have to get straight A's and you can come. So I applied to USC and did that, and then had I not done that, I never would have gotten on the show, because I never would have then got the job in LA and did the whole thing. But sometimes you have regrets. Like I do have one regret. I have a regret that I gave up on that part of my life so quickly on like the Boulder college, like just picked up and went home. But again, everything happens for a reason. So
I was literally thinking how in one perspective you could think, oh, I failed. Like I wanted to go leave the state, leave my family, do this big thing, and I
could do something on my own.
Yeah, and then you're having that conversation, oh, if I didn't, if I go, you know, this is quote like I gave up. But that decision led to this amazing career in life that you have now.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of this story that I saw Tom Brady say once, and it went viral, and it was amazing. And I recently read it in this book I'm reading called A New Earth. And it's kind of like this maybe story. And it basically says, I think the tale is like, a son brings, you know, a cow back home to his dad and says, Dad, look, I got a cow. Like, isn't this great? Now we can like have milk and we can provide. And the dad says, maybe. And then the next day, like the cow twists its ankle and now it like isn't worthy of the production. And now they have to care for the cow and put more money into it. And everyone's like, we're so sorry about this accident. And the dad's like, maybe. And then they take the cow to see the doctor. And the day that they do that, their house like goes up in fire, and someone's like, aren't you so glad that the cow got injured and you went to the hospital? And the dad's like, maybe. And the whole thing is you don't know if something is good or bad.
It's so true. I know, it's so true. It's like sometimes when you think about that though, you're like, oh my God, then there's just like no control we have over stuff, and you know, you feel like a little bit lost. But yes, you never know what road can be there, like behind the other door, you know? And I've never really thought about it that way. Like, of course, I've thought about not doing the show before or how my life would be different. But yeah, we all have to give ourselves a little bit of grace and look at all of those things not as failures, but it's just like paths to another destiny almost.
When you were speaking before about the, you know, not having the Twitter and the Instagram, it is something we have now. And you've been really open recently about receiving like so many unsolicited comments, judgments, and, you know, it's something that comes with the territory of what we do, but sometimes it can feel like it crosses a line and people aren't entitled to the personal, intimate details about our life, our body, our relationship with food. But recently on With Wit, you released a podcast episode kind of addressing people's concerns about your body. What made you want to do that?
So I think, honestly, I really didn't want to, but I felt like this conversation was being had so much without me on my feed, like in my space, in my community, that I got to the point where I was like sick of people having this conversation without me being involved in it. It just felt like someone was like bullying me or something and no one was sticking up for me and I wasn't sticking up for myself. So I was like, I have to like stick up for myself almost. And looking back on it, I sort of wish I hadn't done it, because I think that sometimes when you do that, then you create a space for people to have more of a conversation about it, and you create a space which gives people the opportunity, even if they weren't thinking about it. Now you're like opening it up for them for breeding season to say whatever they want, you know? So if you don't put it out there, then you don't give them that opportunity. But if you don't put it out there, then you're not being vulnerable and sharing what so many people need to see in order for them to feel okay in their own bodies and skin, you know? So like you said, it's such a double-edged sword. Like, I really want to be vulnerable and share vulnerable things because I feel comfortable doing that, but I also don't want that to be used against me. So I think there's just a difference. Like I said, I'm open to people's concern and opinions if it's coming from a place of real care and concern. What I'm not cool with is like the quick insults that don't need to be said. Like, maybe if you gain 20 pounds, you'd be able to get pregnant, or like, you know, just little insensitive digs. Like, those are unnecessary, you know? So it's just,
I'm glad you said that last part, because I was thinking too, it is one thing for people you know who have relationships with you to sit down no matter what it is in your life to have that conversation with you. It's a completely different, inappropriate thing to tag your friend and say, look at her legs in this picture, or look at this. It's like as if you can't see it.
Right. But the thing is like, I brought it up in the first place. So I think, well, that's the thing. I say I brought it up in the first place, but I'm like, I didn't really bring it up. They were all talking about it and then I brought it up. But I feel like because I said something about it and acknowledged it, it gives them opportunity to say even more about it.
And by that, brought it up, you mean the podcast episode, or was there something prior?
The podcast episode, just a little... I like said something and then waited a week and then said something else, like all these little comments. And it's hard. Like I said, it's hard because I do want to talk about what's really going on, because I think that we all get lost in like this whole version of it, because it's important to know in order to be able to help. But I just feel like there's different tones when it comes to how you are on social media. And I think certain tones are necessary and good and create community, and like certain tones are just completely unnecessary.
And when your podcast and your Instagram, like, it is you and it's about your life, it is hard to also like withhold things that are important to you or that are really happening and significant.
Exactly. And I want to share those things, and I do. And for the most part, the community is really supportive. I think it's true what people say. We all get hung up on the negative stuff so much more than we focus on like the positive, and that is true. But I think what we have to do is really just let that stuff go in one ear and out the other, and like not put weight on it. Like it just cannot mean anything to us.
I'm so sorry that you didn't like really want to do it and you felt that you had to, but I sympathize and I get it. Like you didn't really have a choice, because it almost does become a bullying of, we're going to comment this on every post until she has to say it.
Exactly. On every post, there kept on being multiple conversations about it. And yeah, so then I brought it up, and then it stopped for a little, like I said, and then I brought it up again because there was like another major one that I had posted that sparked this conversation. And then now I realized like I just need to focus on my happiness, my healthiness, like knowing what I'm doing in order to like take charge of my, like I said, my health and my happiness, and like not let anybody else define that.
And you were really vulnerable and open in the part of your podcast. You talked about it, expressing that Timmy had a concern. Like you did. That's the thing, is I can tell by the type of person you are, you have like one speed. You're yourself or you're not.
Yeah.
And so there's no world where you read this like typed sentence and call that like, you know.
Yeah.
You mentioned that your husband expressed that he was concerned, which is a vulnerable thing to tell the world.
Totally. So what happened was my husband was seeing all the comments on the posts and was like, so I've been wanting to say something and all these people are having this conversation. And so I think it's like time first, like you and I address it, and then we can figure out if it's something that you want to talk about. But yeah, I mean, he was noticing that I was just not taking care of myself and like not making food a priority. And I'm just the kind of person that like eats to live, doesn't live to eat. And I'll go the whole day with maybe just drinking a smoothie and then have a big dinner and think that's enough, you know? And like that is not healthy. And I think that being busy and bearing like a lot of other stuff that I've had going on the past, 10 years of my life, like it all can catch up with you. And it just kind of caught up with me this past year. So yeah, once Timmy said something to me, I was like, okay, now I probably have to take a look at this. Yeah.
But I have like compassion for you when you explain that, because you're busy, you're working, you have relationships you're dealing with, you have a career. Like, I think some people look at the food conversation as very like it has to be one thing that fits in this box, like it's an insecurity or it's, you know, a result of society pressure. But for some,
or you're picky, picky.
For some people, it can literally just be like, I know when I'm feeling very anxious, I lose my appetite.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose my appetite and not have a meal, but if I have anxiety in my stomach, I physically can't do it.
Right.
And then to have people think, oh, no, you're just trying to skip a meal. It's like, no, that's not the case.
That's exactly it. It's like I never felt like I had an issue because I wasn't trying to be a certain way. I wasn't trying to be thin. Like I'm a naturally thin person who just, I think, allowed a little bit of like anxiety and some depression kind of lead the way within my body, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does.
Yeah.
And beforehand, seeing you receive so much like unsolicited judgment frustrated me. And then even now to just hear you talking about how it's like so not this intentional thing. And it's like the last thing you need if you're in that situation is the world telling you you're not up to par in a certain area.
Right. I mean, the good thing is that it did force me to take a look at it and like try to make sure that I was being as healthy as possible. So I am grateful for that. That's one thing that is so great about the community is sometimes like, you know, people are seeing you every day and listening to you and hearing you, and they are picking up on certain cues, and there are good people out there that care about you. And I want that to come across too. And so I am grateful for that. I'm like now going through like, how much do I say and how much do I not say? Like, how much do I need to update people on any quote progress or like what I'm eating in a day, or you know what I mean? Like,
which is so weird to think like, do I have to tell the public what I'm eating every day, like as if they deserve that information.
I know, but it's like now anything food related that I want to post, I'm like thinking about if I'm going to get some sort of weird comment. I mean, not to that extent, but
yeah,
like you get it.
Which sucks because, you know, then you're overthinking it when you weren't. That's a lot of, honestly, when I think about, like, I had a binge eating disorder. Okay. So in college, like, really resented a lot of my weight gain because of volleyball. And I started restricting and not fueling myself. Okay. And then I was really anxious and depressed as well. I think we all have our anxious, depressy time in college.
Yes, for sure. And I think that comes in waves throughout our lives. Yeah. Like, we're just normal human beings.
And I was coping with food. It was like my comfort and my outlet. And then I would cry and feel shame and guilt and then restrict the next day. And then the cycle continued. But it's like when you make it a goal, even if it's in a good way, then you're just thinking about it more. And it's like the attention on it sometimes isn't always the best thing.
It's so true. So I was like, what do I do here? Kind of stuck. And so I decided to go see a nutritionist. And she really said, like, it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. Like, I was thinking if you go to a nutritionist, they're going to tell you need like 8 servings of protein a day, 6 servings of veggies, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that is so intimidating for me. Like, that's going to become a whole full-time job. And for some people, it is very easy to feed themselves that much a day, you know, but for me, I'm not coming from that place. But I ended up, when I met with her, she was like, no, what feels good to you? Like, what sounds good to you? What kind of eater are you? Are you a snacker? Do you like to sit down and eat big meals? And it was all about like intuitive eating, which I know we hear a lot, but all about just like tuning into really what sounds good to me. And to me, like, I am a snacker. Like, I want to munch on stuff all throughout the day. Like breakfast and lunch, I may not want to sit down and have like a whole big thing, but I'm going to make sure that I'm like getting what I need in another way, because there's plenty of stuff I like to eat. So it's just about like us owning who we are as people, and food and diet and body and all this stuff not being so prescriptive, that it's like it's so individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the one size fits all model, or the watching someone else's what I eat in a day and then comparing yourself. Everyone is so different.
Yes.
And so I'm like an avid intuitive eater. Like, I love it. It really saved my relationship with food. Oh my God,
amazing.
Because I had never asked myself that question. Like, what do I want?
Right.
How do I want to feel when I'm done eating before my game? Like, do I want to feel energized? Do I want to feel stuffed? Do I want to have a snack at halftime? And it was just so wild to me. And I remember one of the first pieces of intuitive eating, like, literature I read said, it doesn't matter how many calories are in an egg white. Do you want an egg white?
Right. It's so true.
Like, I literally have never even asked myself. I've just gone by what I was told.
What you thought was the, quote, healthiest option. Yeah, I know. It's really helpful. I want to read the book, too, because I feel like it's really important for us, and even for me as a mom of a 6-year-old, like being able to have the education with how to talk to my kid with food, because you want to like free them of that, you know?
Yeah, you just want to raise them like, how can I make sure you have no problems ever?
Exactly.
Right?
Like, I just don't want to be the cause of all your problems.
But then if we do that, I'm not a parent, but I would guess like, and then if you do that, the kid will be like, my parents never let me suffer.
Exactly.
So now I got to go suffer somewhere. Like,
exactly.
You know, you can't win.
I know, it's
but
so true.
I'll send you this Instagram account called Kids Eat in Color.
Oh my God, I follow them. Love them.
I've had her on the podcast.
Oh my God,
I'm obsessed. I'm already like trying to figure it out. I'm nowhere near having kids, but
yeah, you'll get there.
Yeah, but I'm so good. It sounds like you found a really great nutritionist, because some of them create the problems. The dietitians, the nutritionists, like
really,
I had experience with that.
Okay, so this is my first foray into this. This is the first nutritionist I've ever had. So far, I'm finding it pretty easy and not overwhelming, which is good for me. Like, in order to be consistent about something, like, I need it to be like that. I can't be too regimented, or else I get stressed and I won't be consistent with it. So it's also just about knowing that and going with someone that has that vibe. So yeah, it's been good so far.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thanks. Yeah.
I mean, and the other part of this is like, women in general are like so much more than our bodies and what we're eating, and yet it can't help but be like such the focus and the center. I don't think, even when I think of male public figures who I don't know, like Jonah Hill. I feel like everyone has seen that his body has changed a lot. I don't see comments about it on every single thing he posts.
No, that's for sure. Like, I agree. And even he is like an extreme version of that, you know? Like, people just don't comment on men's bodies nearly as much as they comment on women's bodies.
And it's crazy how I think the comments that he gets are like, congratulations, this is amazing.
Oh, well, that's true,
but
too.
There's a certain type of thin or a certain type of body that doesn't get praised. Like, so society's like praising you if you're in this specific weight range, or, I mean, the whole thing is just messed up. And that's why I just think we should never comment on someone's body.
I agree. I feel like that should just be the rule. And that's what I'm teaching Sunny. And that's what I'm honestly reteaching myself too, because I'll do it. I'm guilty of it. And even I'll do it like just like in my own brain. Like, I'll comment in my own brain a judgment about someone. Now I'm conscious of it. I have to be like, no, Whitney, stop. Like, that is coming from like some sort of biased like conditioning that we need to like stop.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I love that you have the compassion for yourself of like where that comes from, because we can't be perfect. Like, we are also a product.
I try not to blame myself. Yeah. I'm not like a bad person for having that judgment. But yeah, you're so right.
When you, in the beginning, talked about identity, I would love to hear more about this, because I think I'm always in a place where, like, I feel like my identity shifts, whether you're online or you're not. Even your family can say, you used to do one thing, now you're doing another. Like, people are always trying to
like put you in a box.
Yeah, and I think it's because humans, if I get really philosophical, have a desire. We want to understand. Yeah. We want to know. And I actually think the majority of things we'll never know. We'll never be able to explain. But what has that been like for you, feeling like you're far from maybe a reality TV day or the version of you that everyone knew when you were 23 and now you're a mom and in a different place?
Yeah. So it's so crazy, the whole idea of identity. And I'm with you that I think that we are constantly changing, and like, people have all these preconceived notions of who we are. And I think that's another thing that we have to like totally uncondition, you know, especially with social media, because we see so much of what someone's life looks like on social media that we think we know them, but we don't. I have found it hard for myself sometimes to fully like know who I am, because I've had so many different phases, and because I've been on TV and had like a little bit of imposter syndrome, not knowing how much of what I have in my life is because of the TV show versus how much I'm like good at what I do, you know? So I've struggled a little bit with that, and I think that that's caused like some insecurities. And I'm working more now on focusing on the qualities that I do have and the reasons why, yes, I would be in this place, or of course I'm in a happy marriage because I like knew what to look for. But my identity, it's so, I can't even put it into words.
Which that's like the correct answer, if there is one, that we cannot define ourselves.
I'm so like, I don't want to say even complicated, but there's like so many different facets of who I am that it can't really be explained. Yeah.
I cannot shut up about this book. I'm sure everyone who's listening to this is so annoyed at me because I talk about it all the time, but A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Yeah. I'm doing this book club podcast called So Much to Say About It.
Fun.
Yeah, it's a fun passion project, but he literally talks about how when it comes to who we are, it's just the like, I am. And there's nothing on the other side of that, because we just are. We are present in this moment, and we're beings that are ever changing with like time and experiences flowing through us.
We can choose to be whatever we want in a moment.
When you said your imposter syndrome thing, that interested me though, because I think no matter who anyone is or what they've done, we all have that little shred of it. So is that voice telling you like, you know, they chose you for this show and now these things happen because of the show. So like, what if I didn't get the show?
Exactly.
But then I would tell you, not that you're asking, that you got chosen for that because of the special sparkle that you had.
That's so nice. But that was for TV. That wasn't necessarily for the internship in fashion, which is what I really wanted. I think that's the part that people miss. It's like, I just wanted to really, I feel like, be taken seriously in fashion. And like, I think that part was kind of taken away from me once I got on reality TV, because at the time reality TV stars just like, they weren't like taken seriously in the fashion world. And so that's just held on to me. And I feel like I can't get that part of my identity off of me, even though I don't want it. Like, it's such a huge part of who I am, and I'm so grateful for it. And I never regret doing the show. And if I was in that same position again, I would do it again.
Yeah.
But I don't like sometimes the negative connotations that it has stuck on me throughout my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it really does.
Yeah.
So what about now? Is that still something that you want to be like the main pillar of what you do? I know you were just at New York Fashion Week and your outfits were amazing.
Thank you. So I'm not focusing on it like I got to get away from that, but I'm really just trying to focus on the things that make me happy that I would have done had I not been on the TV show. And I think that in doing that, like, that will prove it in and of itself. Like, I don't have to do anything specifically or say anything to try to get away from that. I just have to like follow what I set out to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also wanted to talk to you about your marriage.
Yeah.
Just because I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary.
Oh my God, congrats.
Thank you.
That's so exciting.
And it's sadly not that common for long, healthy relationships, especially in like media when it comes to celebrities. I feel like you guys are one of the few couples in reality TV, or someone who was in reality TV, to still be with their same partner for so many years.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I mean, we got married in 2015, so we will be married for 8 years in November, but we were together for like 2 years before that. But what's crazy is that like even Heidi and Spencer are still, or you didn't watch the show.
No, but I know Heidi and Spencer, just because if you're on TikTok, how do you not come across Spencer? He's hilarious.
Okay. I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know. But he is hilarious. He's hilarious.
Yeah, I love them too.
Yeah,
I love it because people have tried to tear them apart.
I agree. And I think that their love obviously stands the test of it all, because they're still together. But yeah, Timmy, we've been together for a while, but I think it's also because, well, one, we just chose well. And also, the two of us weren't on TV together. So none of our dirty laundry was ever aired, you know? And like, I only have ever had one relationship on camera, and that was when I was dating this guy, Jay, on The City. And that was just because I knew it was just like a fun, frivolous relationship that was like, it wasn't for the show, but I just wasn't as precious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what has, you think, been like the keys and foundation to a healthy relationship through the ups and downs through social media?
I think the biggest thing is just like fighting fair. For us, it's like talking to each other and really, really listening to each other, and not trying to think about what you're going to say before they get a chance to speak. Like, not rehearsing your fight. This isn't like a battle to win. This is a conversation where you guys should both hear each other out, and that you don't have to always agree, and that it's okay to agree to disagree. And also for us, taking breaks throughout fights, if you are ever
I thought you were going to say throughout the relationship.
No.
You're like once a year we take a break.
At the beginning, for us, like, my dad passed away when we were really just like starting to build our relationship and our family. And so I was just in a really fragile state. And I remember us having all these long drawn out conversations, and he would want to, like, you know, take a breather, take a walk or something. And I would feel like, no, please don't go, don't leave. And I now, looking back on that, and after just maturing and communicating and working on it, I've realized that it's so important for everybody to get what they need in those moments, that just because he needs to go take a breath and take a little walk to clear his head, it's not him abandoning me. Like, it's my responsibility to take care of myself in that moment when he walks away. So just like those little things. Yeah.
It's so true. We respond to everything as our better self 2 hours later.
Yeah.
Especially when you sleep on it.
Yep.
Like, you know, and yeah, that's kind of one of those relationship cliches, is like, never go to bed mad. Like,
I know. I never thought that we should. And I was always one of those people, because I feel like that's something my parents always taught me. But now I'm more like, Great. I don't want to go to bed mad because it's harder for me to fall asleep, but we can go to bed like a little bit unsettled so that we get perspective on it the next day.
I was thinking the word like unresolved.
Yes,
like you can go, you can say I love you and still be a little like we have stuff to finish and close, but like we don't have to do it now.
Exactly.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about listening, have you heard of peoplehood?
No.
Okay, so the founder of SoulCycle, I just heard her speak at this event I was at, and she founded something new called peoplehood.
Okay.
And it's this idea that I'm going to butcher this, but you go just to be listened to. It's like this group where you show up and you get to share what you're dealing with, and they have like these prompts, and then other people are there just listening.
That's
and then
amazing.
the time stops, and then you get to share and people listen. And she made us do this exercise, and she said to the person to your left, thank God it was my mom, she's like, they're going to go for 3 minutes answering like this question. And
oh my God.
the other person, you're just going to sit there engaged in listening. Don't think about what advice you would give. Don't think about what you would say. Just listen.
Was it so hard?
So hard.
So hard.
And it has changed me because I really don't think, yes, I was listening, but I'm listening while I formulate my advice or what I would do or what I will say. And then to listen and be like, I'm okay with the deafening silence of the 30 seconds after to then start collecting my thoughts. It's game changing.
It's game changing. I know. In Sunny's school, they do this thing too where the teacher will ask a question and they give everybody the chance to like sit and think and write it down before they raise their hand. So everyone has the opportunity to like sit and think and listen. Yeah, we just all need a little bit of perspective on things. And I think also like we need to really hear what they're saying. Like we really need to hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
And it's not always about the tone. The tone thing was always a thing with the two of us. Like I think for us, it's like not getting caught up on the tone, just trying to listen to the message of what they're saying.
And I feel like too, yes to all of that. And just being present with someone does so much for them. Because just to have at least a feeling that someone is like giving you their complete undivided attention and they're here for you like physically and you can feel it does a lot these days because everyone's so consumed with everything.
I agree. I think that connects you in a way that nothing really else can. You know, when you feel heard and understood and listened to, I think that like that's where true love really exists. And I think that's what can like stand the test of time. Yeah.
Well, congrats on such a successful, healthy marriage.
Stop. Thank you.
Love it. Love it. It's just so fun to think about, like, you know, hopefully I always think like, God, I get like bad intrusive thoughts, but I'm like, I hope we grow old together and I would just feel so blessed if like I get to have kids with you and I get to do life with you.
Yes, that's how you should feel.
Yeah.
That's completely how you should feel.
I know. I agree. But do you ever feel like, I feel like I'm sometimes not as verbally communicative about how amazing and happy I feel in my relationship because it's like you feel bad if people are single and they don't want to hear it and you want to be sensitive.
Oh my God, all the time.
But then I'm like, then we're not talking enough about when you're in love, you should be like 100% like obsessed.
I know. I'm so with that. And I agree with that. And I think that it does need to happen more because I feel like we put so much of an emphasis on people complaining about how horrible things are. Or it's kind of like, it's weird. It's when you're young in your 20s, you're complaining nonstop about relationships. And then you start getting into relationships and you have an opinion about everybody else's relationship. And then everybody's in relationships and no one wants to talk about them anymore. You can tell someone's being really vulnerable when they open up to something wrong in like the marriage, you know? Because they're so afraid of like judgment from other people. But it's so normal. Like Timmy and I will even air out fights on our podcast so that people can like hear what like we think a normal fight sounds like, you know?
That's iconic.
Yeah.
I think Max and I did that once. We barely, but we aired this argument about like dishes and like household chores. And yeah, I don't know. I get sensitive wanting to like, I mean, I admire you for doing that, but I would feel like if people were messaging me or my husband being like, I side with you, or I can't believe you did this, I'm like, whoa, like you're not in this relationship.
Yeah. People are usually very like, go team.
Right.
Like they're like, I can see where both of you guys are coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It
Yeah.
is
Max
funny.
and I had like not like an argument, but we were at dinner the other night and I thought our conversation hit a very natural pause.
Okay.
And so, you know, I said, yeah, that sucks. And he was like, yeah. And he like sat back and I was like, okay. So I went to look at my phone because I was waiting on a text for something the next day.
Okay.
And then he started talking. I'm a really bad multitasker.
Same.
If I'm staring at a phone, the ears don't work.
No, same.
Just know it about me.
Same.
And so then he says this whole thing and then he looks at me and I'm on my phone. He's like, babe. I'm like, what? He's like, you didn't hear anything I just said? I was like, no. He's like, that's so bad. And I was like, I thought our conversation ended. He's like, but you didn't hear me start to talk again? I'm like, it was like so innocent.
Yeah,
but
innocent.
But in that moment, I wanted to be like, let's go on Instagram and detail this because I think I should be forgiven here.
Totally.
But
like, so not something that you meant to do.
Right. But I didn't because I am trying to set some boundaries with social media.
Yes.
Like after a certain hour, I'm not going to post because then I never stop working.
I think that like, once I put Sunny to sleep at like 7:38, I'll maybe do a little quick scroll if I want to, or like a quick check at what my day looks like the next day. And then I'm like done. I go charge it in the other room and I try not to engage with it for the rest of the night. I don't think that it's healthy for us. Like, I really have to set boundaries with it. Like, and I'm trying not to go to it immediately when I wake up too, even though that's really hard.
Do you get anxious now posting? Like, will you read all your comments and your messages? Like,
I read all of them, yeah, but I'm not getting anxious anymore. I feel like I can heal from things quickly. Like, I was in it and it was affecting me, and then I get over it really fast, you know? And like now I'm going to read everything because I want to engage, and like this is a community, but I'm not going to obsess over it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's just hard because, if you post and you say, and I'm not going to look at anything, it's like such a one-sided relationship where we don't actually get everything out of it because there are these amazing people who are saying nice things or they have questions or they're funny, like so funny, and they know the inside jokes. Exactly. And so you want to engage, but when you're doing that, you're going to come across the negative ones.
Exactly. And like Timmy is much more sensitive about it. Like he was getting bad comments.
Will he get in there and warrior to you?
I mean, sometimes he does, but like after this podcast episode, he said something that like someone clipped out and totally took out of context. And he was like, Whitney, will you like monitor the YouTube episode and let me know if anybody like says anything bad? Like, I don't know if I can handle it.
Aww.
And I was like, you need to grow some like you have to know where to put the weight.
I hate when they do that. Like they'll be like, Whitney Port's husband says he's worried.
Yes.
And it's like, that's not how it was said.
No.
But do you get anxious knowing that like when this comes out, like tabloids will listen and then be like, what's the newest thing she said about her body?
A little bit for sure.
Hi tabloids. Yeah. We hear you. We see you. They're listening right now.
A little bit. But I'm also just like, if I'm going to put my energy there, then like, where is my energy going to go? Like, I can't spend too much energy thinking about that. I have to more think about like the content of what I'm putting out, not how people are going to feel from it, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's great advice for everyone in their lives is you have to be you. You have to do what you want to do. It's going to come with people's opinions and judgments.
No matter what.
Yeah. And the only other option is we live small out of fear.
Exactly.
And I don't want to do that.
No. Because I remember Kelly Catrone saying to me once, like, nothing worth having has ever come without taking risks, you know? So, like, we have to take risks. We have to put ourselves out there. Even if whatever we're nervous about, as different as we think we may feel, as much as we feel like someone may not identify, like, it seems to be that those are the moments when someone always does. And when you find that out and you're validated and you're like, oh my God, now I don't feel so alone. Now how great is it that this person doesn't feel so alone, you know? Yeah.
You're just so cool.
Oh my God. Thank you.
I'm glad I never watched The Hills, so I never formed an opinion about you prior to meeting you.
You would have totally.
I'm sure it would have been all good things.
Yeah. I I was totally fine on the hill. Like, I was
Great.
just Lauren's friend in the fashion closet. Lauren was the main girl, and she would come into work every day and tell me her drama, like what happened at the club the night before, and I would just give her like friendly advice.
Love that.
Yeah, it was good. You should watch it.
I honestly, now I want to go back and see that first episode of you.
Yeah,
because now that I know the story.
Like, and I'm wearing my first day filming, I'm wearing like a vintage paisley cowboy dress with like cowboy boots, and my hair is bleach blonde down to here, ringlet curls.
Slay.
Like, get ready. You're gonna, yeah. Timmy and I during COVID didn't know what to do with ourselves, so we went back and watched the old episodes of The Hills in the City and did reaction videos on YouTube.
Oh my God.
So if you actually, that's the way to watch it.
That's what I'm doing this weekend.
Don't watch it on its own, because we do the whole episode.
Okay.
So
I'm so glad you told me.
Yeah. It's called Previously.
Maybe
on
I'll
the
put a gummy in
Screviously.
and turn that on.
You'll die. It's so up your alley. You'll have fun with it.
Okay, great. Well,
Yeah.
Whitney, thank you so much.
Oh my God, my
I
pleasure.
literally loved hosting you. I'm
Me
so excited
too.
for everyone to hear this.
Thank you.
I feel like people can be really misunderstood on social media, and thank you for trusting me and coming on the show and being so open.
My pleasure.
Yay.
My sister told me I was going to love you, and you're awesome.
Yay.
So thank you
Hi
so
to your
much.
sis.
Yay.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of RealPod. If this hit home or helped you in some way, send it to a friend, a teammate, roomie. Share the love, share the realness. New episodes of RealPod come out every single Wednesday, so make sure you are subscribed to this podcast so you never miss an episode.